based on the estate, the possessions of the husband who passed away. Okay, so again, we're Hilchos Yibum Vchalitza Perek Rishon Halacha Beis.
She gets the ksuba after her husband dies.
So no, over here, because there's an option to do Yibum, if he does Yibum, she doesn't get paid the ksuba yet, because she's still married to this. She's not widowed or divorced. Right. She's now married to the backup base. But again, the brother who gets to inherit the property of when he does Yibum Vchalitza, he gets all the property of the brother who passed away. So but a portion of that is reserved for the ksuba of this woman.
Really, he inherits automatically, but
yeah, 1 second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, he has to write her. Yeah, he has to write her a new ksuba, second husband. I mean, the ksuba for this husband is on the the ksuba of the new husband. 1 second. Yeah, we said Hilchos Yibum Perek. Yeah, that's what we said over there. That essentially that the husband does Yibum Vchalitza, he inherits the not Vchalitza, sorry, not Vchalitza, Yibum, right? Okay, I believe that's how it is. Okay, base. But also if the other brother does not want to do Yibum, he or she doesn't want to do Yibum, she doesn't want to marry him. The second option is Chalitza. It is Chalitza, which we'll describe later on. After the Chalitza is done, she can marry whoever she pleases. It's another mitzvah to say that if you don't want to do Yibum, do Chalitza. It says, you should remove his shoe. Interesting, the mitzvah of Yibum is if you say the mitzvah of Yibum is on the person to do Yibum, to do Chalitza, let's say. But he doesn't do it, he stands there. She's the one who takes off the shoe. This is frozen, it's not working. Okay, anyway. It says, ideally the mitzvah Yibum comes first, and then Chalitza is a backup. Again, nowadays is the whole Yibum is less common. Now we do Chalitza. Gimel. This Torah says, if anyone he has no children, the person who passed away has no children, whether it's a son or a daughter, or he's son and daughter, even if his own children passed away, but if he has grandchildren through them, so they have kids. Since he has any kind of biological descendants, or since he has descendants, whether it's from this wife, from the other wife. So in other words, if he passes away and he has no children with this wife, but he had a different wife before, or has another wife currently, he has children with that, as long as the man who passed away has descendants, there's no obligation to perform Yibum Vchalitza. The fact that he has kids, his wives, like all 10 of them, if he has 10 wives, the fact that one of them has a kid, none of them have to be Yibum Vchalitza. Even if it was a mamzer, or the child was an Ibn Ben Zara, what makes his wife not obligated to Yibum Vchalitza, she can marry whoever she pleases. Dalit. If he has a biological child from a non-Jewish woman from a shivcha, that's not part of his wife. Because it's descendants that a person has through a maid-servant woman, of them, they're slaves, that they're not considered his children. Now remember, even though we said in the Hilchos Yibum, if a person has never mind. I would say something that's not again.
It's Kaspi, but it's not his children.
Yeah, exactly. Fine. Never mind. Good. Someone has a relationship with a non-Jewish woman. Goy again. The children are goyim. And as if they don't exist as far as we're concerned. They're not considered his children, even though that kid gets freed. He's a Jew, but the fact is not his kid. I remember Shifcha says regarding a Shifcha, the woman and her children belong to the master. So if the Evan Ivri is with a Shifcha, which the master is allowed to do, those kids aren't his children. That teaches us, her children are like her. That's regarding a shifcha. Regarding a non-Jewish woman, it says, it says in the Varm Veschanan, don't give your daughters to a non-Jewish man, because he will make your child. 1 second. It says before that, it says, don't take their daughters of the goyim for your sons, and don't take and don't take their sons for your daughters, because they will make your sons. If you take their daughters for your sons, that will cause your children to turn away from me. That turns them away from me, considered part of Klal Yisrael. The fact that you gave your son to a non-Jewish woman means now you're causing a child to be born not to be a Yid. Therefore, so we see from here that even though the father is a Yid, if the mother is a Goy, no, there's a Shivcha, the child is not considered a Yid. Even though that child we had from the Shivcha was freed and became a Yid, or the child from the Goyish woman was converted, right? Him Kishar again, like a regular ger, or a freed slave, they don't pater his wife from doing Yibum Vchalitza. Just like we said in Hilchos Yibum, remember that if a person has children from a Goya and they're Megayer, he's not considered Mekayim Peruhu, because he's not considered his kids. Although we did say, remember, interesting enough, if a Goy has kids and they both convert, he's Mekayim Peruhu. If he converts and his kids convert, we said that's considered Peruhu, even though Allah is not considered his kids for other things. Okay, I can put them over here. For sure, they're not considered his kids as far as Yibum Vchalitza go. Person had this child from his own maidservant, and he freed the child. And he freed her. And then he married her afterwards. He dies without having any kids. She has to be Yibum with his brother, even though the child they had together before is alive, since he was freed. In other words, the point is not that he was freed. So if he was not freed, for sure. But the point is, even though he was freed, the fact is that this child that he had with the Shivcha is not his kid as far as halacha goes. Right? He had a child with the Shivcha. The child is considered an Evet Kanani, or the Shivcha Kanani if she's a girl. Then he frees the maid, and it belongs to him because the servant belongs to him. So then he frees the Shivcha, he frees the child. They're both full Yidden, but it's not his kid. And then he marries her.
Why do they become full Yid when
when an Evet Kanani gets freed, he becomes a full Yid. He's like a quasi ger. And when an Evet Kanani, Shivcha Kanani is freed, the ger is complete. They become complete Yid.
Is that the way it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So it says Gamliel actually once freed his slave, even though it's a mitzvah to keep them slaves forever, to make it to complete a minyan. Like upon him, so over here the child is not considered to be their child, and therefore she's considered to be having her husband having been widowed with no children, with the husband having no children, and she's mechoyev Yibum Vchalitza if he has any brothers. Hey, better someone passed away, and his wife is expecting. So now the question is she mechoyev Yibum or not? If she miscarries after he passes away, because she's considered to have been widowed and he has no kids. If, however, she gives birth to a child and the child is born and he lives, even if he only lived for one moment, one moment, because since at that moment she became Pater Yibum Vchalitza, she's Pater because his child came into the world. The fact he lived very long is not negay, so therefore she's Pater Yibum Vchalitza. However, the Racham were misaken, as she called the Chadasha, that is, she only paters her from Yibum Vchalitza if this child who didn't live very long, if we know for sure that he was a viable child, he lived the full 9 months. If we don't know after how long he was born, we don't know if it was 9 months full or not. Or you could even say pshat. No, the Rambam says very clear. Sorry, 9 full months. Never mind. There's no option of saying it's 8 and apart. Okay, when the Rambam, it has to be 9 full months. If you don't know for sure that it was, if you don't know how long it was, if it was 9 full months or not, in Chayasha should be understand if he lived 30 days, so he's considered a viable child. He's pater, his father's wife from Chalitza Yibum. It's considered like he died with kids. He's a child. If he dies within 30 days, on the 30th day, because we don't know whether there was a full 9-month pregnancy, whether he died from sickness, he fell from a roof, he was eaten by a lion. The fact is, he was not a sure viable child. So he's a suffix neifel. He's considered a suffix of a stillborn. Suffix ben kayamer or non-stillborn. But the chum of the second, even though she's part of Chalitza, she has to Chalitza to pater because it looks like he died childless. Since this child was not a viable child, it wasn't a full 9-month pregnancy as far as we know, it's not for sure, and he didn't live 30 days, so that makes it look like he dies childless. Therefore, Matera, she requires to do chalitza. Now, if this job, you can't do Yibum, obviously. Since Matayda, there's no Chiyuv of Yibum, so the regular default halacha of the Isser of Eishes Ach applies. Marrying your brother's wife, whether the brother is alive or not, is a Matayda. It's Chiyuv Kares. Therefore, that's not an option. But
So it does chalitza.
yeah, that's chalitza. Someone who has a brother, regardless of what kind of brother. I feel a mamzer, even if it's a mamzer.
Is there any downside of doing a chalitza whether you're supposed to have?
Chacham treat it like a get midrabanan, which is why Yashon Koyin, you can't marry that person's mother now because it's like you're a grusha. We'll see. Someone has a brother in any whatever kind of brother it is, even if it's a mamzer, or even if it's a zara, or the brothers, even if it's a zara, a child or an adult. Once that brother is born, his majority of his body, which means basically his head plus majority of his body. Someone I say pshat Rambam means the majority of his head, but okay, akapanim, like as if it's Reish Shel Rubai, although it says Reish Rubai, but akapanim, let's say the majority of his head and his body, before the brother passes away, because the moment he passed away, he had a living brother who was in the world. Now his wife has to do Yibum. If that's the only brother, she has to wait 13 years. If he has a brother, but it's a brother that his father had to a Shifcha Goya, again, it's not considered his brother. So just like we said before, that's not considered the child of the person who passes away, as far as the wife having to do Yibum. It's not considered the brother of the person who passes away from the wife to do Yibum or not. It doesn't require his wife to do Yibum. Even though the birth of the child was to kedusha. So, for example, if he freed this maidservant and then married her, but she was already expecting when that happened. So when she was born, though, the child was already Jewish, or he was Megayer her. She was Megayer when she's already expecting. Since at the time of the conception, it was not the kedusha. She wasn't a Jew. It's not considered his brother. So. Kudam says it clearly somewhere else. I forgot exactly where, but let's say, for example, even if the person let's say a person has a goyish wife, and then after she's already expecting, she converts and gives birth to two twin boys. They're not considered brothers as far as Yibum Vchalitza goes, because they're not his biological kids. They were conceived when she was a goy. Zayin. Half brothers to the mother. Let's say she has divorced, then she has a new husband and new children. That's not considered brothers. What's next about you? Indian or Ella? Ella. Okay, so as far as Avelis and Edis goes, they are brothers' obligations. It's Shivach and Shogadaft, and the apostle, they can't say testimony for each other, considered brothers. As far as Edis goes, right? Aval Indian Yerusha, Yibum Vchalitza, as far as Yerusha goes, inheriting each other. Or Yibum Vchalitza goes, it's like they're not related. Of brotherly, what's the word? Not paternity, the brethren, is only basically from the father, as far as Yibum Vchalitza goes. Ches. A game who convert or slaves who are freed, they have no relation as brothers, no family relation. Oh, I said this before. Okay, even if one of them, his conception was when the mother was not Jewish or she was a maidservant, but it doesn't be kedusha, but the birth was b'kedusha. But the second brother, the younger brother, he was conceived after she was Megayer. So both brothers were born after she already converted. But the older one was conceived more than 9 months before the Gators. So his conception was Shlei b'kedusha. So Harei him Kazarim. They're not considered to be brothers halachically as far as Yibum Vchalitza goes. Even brothers who are both born b'kedusha, they have no brotherliness. Unless both the conception and the birth is b'kedusha. Test. So I remember some Maisa when I was in camp. There was Maisa, someone passed away or whatever. Basically, the point is, also, let's say, for example, this guy, if the conception is when she's not Jewish, and then the birth is when he is Jewish, it's not his kid. It's no chiv avavelus. So yes. I remember the situation when I was in camp, whatever. So basically, parents became Baal Tshuva, but it was already when his mother was a guy later, so therefore he wasn't his father. Test. Someone who has multiple wives, right? Like Yaakov has 4 wives, let's say, and Yaakov passes away. The bia, or the yibum, or the chalitza of one of them, it's pater all of them. Then there's no obligation. In fact, you're not supposed to do yibum with more than one. So if Bilhah does Yibum with one of the brothers, that's enough for all the other three wives to go and marry whoever they please, or Chalitza for that matter. Either way, and he can't say, okay, I'm going to marry Rachel and Leah or Bilhah and Zilpah. That's not allowed. Remember, it says Asher lo yov yivna space achiv. It says after they take off the shoe, everyone's supposed to say such should be done if someone does not build his brother's house and he wants to do Chalitza instead. So what do you see? He didn't build his brother's house, but he's supposed to build his brother's house, but only one house. In other words, only one of the wives from his brother's house. He doesn't build two houses of his brother's houses. If you have a wife being called a bias, being called a house. Now, you might ask, what do you mean it's more serious? If he does Yibum Vchalitza with one of the wives, to do So let's say he does Yibum with Rachel. He wants to do Yibum now with Leah. There's no obligation to do Yibum. He already did one Yibum. This is Eishes Ach. The answer is no. Once he passes away, and any one of the wives is a candidate for Yibum or Chalitza, the issue of Eishes Ach falls away. So Yaakov's brothers now, once Yaakov dies without kids, Yaakov's brother now can marry any of his four wives. There's no more issue of Eishes Ach. If Yaakov had a kid, any one of these four wives, there's an issue of Eishes Ach, your brother's wife, the Chi of Karas. Once he passes away without kids, now any one of these wives is a candidate for Yibum, Eishes Ach falls away. What remains.
That's the Yibum.
Good. But once he exactly, it has to be only one of them. So once he does Yibum with one of them, there's no mitzvah Yibum with more than one. So if you do more than one, that's Eishes Ach, you might say. The answer is no. It's not. It's not Eishes Ach. If you marry Rachel and Leah, Rachel's Yibum with Leah, he's everyone that say of Yavam and Yavel and not anybody else. But Eishes Ach Yichid Karas is not. The kids, and if he does, the kid's not a mamzer. Not allowed. It's not a mamzer. In fact, not even allowed. It's just an say. They had multiple brothers. One of Yaakov's brothers does Yibum or Chalitza with one of Yaakov's wives. The other three wives are marry whoever they please. What if Yaakov had multiple wives and one of them was previously married? Yaakov's her second husband. She's not obviously she's a Gerusha. She can't marry a Kohen. Even before she married Yaakov, or for other reasons she can't marry a Kohen. She had a Gerusha boyfriend once upon a time. If Yaakov's brother is going to do Yibum, the Yabim so do whichever one you want. If Chalitza, do Chalitza dafka to that wife who once upon a time had a Gerusha boyfriend or was a Gerusha. Don't take someone who's kosher for kuna and make the possible kuna. It's not necessary. So that's if you do Chalitza, that's who you should choose. If a person, let's say, has multiple brothers, right? Let's say a person has you have three brothers, right? Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon are in a car accident. Chafshon passed away. So now Levi has two brothers who passed away, and there's two. And Reuven and Shimon both have an almana or a few almanas. And Reuven and Shimon wives, let's say it's two each. The four wives now come. Levi now is four women essentially who's an option in Chalitza. In Avshalom, Yabim, one do Yibum with all four. Yabim could do. Sorry, that was a mistake. No, bad example. So Reuven and Shimon both have one wife each. If he wants to do Yibum for both of them, Yabim could do Yibum. If he doesn't want to, if he can't or whatever, he can do. If he doesn't want to, he can do Chalitza for all of them. Or the Mishiyirtze, man, or he can do Chalitza for Reuven's wife, and do Yibum for Shimon's wife. Achas we call bias, again, one from each house as he prefers, right? Yid base.
What's the Chiddush?
The Chiddush is that even though there's one person has an obligation to do the mitzvah of Yibum more than once, you're not going to say that there's like there's a problem of just like if Reuven had just like if the brother has multiple wives, you can't do Yibum more than once. You don't say that applies if it's two brothers from the same family.
Right. So
that's what he's saying over here basically. There's no restriction in terms of as long as you don't do Yibum more than once per brother, it's fine. These days. Someone who does who marries his Yivam. So he basically does Yibum. Necessary love. We said before already, he cannot marry the other wives. That's an issue of an asay. And also neither can the other brothers. Because again, only one brother can marry one Yibum. So if Reuven and Shimon have two wives each, let's say Reuven passes away, or yes, Yaakov passes away, he has four wives. So Yaakov's brother does Yibum with Rachel. So Yaakov's other brothers, all of them are usher in Yaakov's other wives. So not only is Yaakov's, let's say the brother who does Yibum usher on the other wives, but his other brothers are also usher on the other wives.
That's with or without him doing Yibum.
So, what do you mean?
What Rambam is basically saying, it's not by him doing Yibum that they become the Tzoros are usher them. First of all, we go to the oldest of the brothers.
That's the yeah. One second. Before Yibum Vchalitza happens, in theory, any one of these brothers could do Yibum with any one of these wives.
It doesn't work with the older one.
But ideally, but it's not like a chiyuv. If he's not out of town, let's say,
so
jail.
Therefore, by each one of them having this zikah, this chiyuv.
Yeah.
So this woman is technically a tzara because there she.
Oh, exactly. But the point is that Yaakov, let's say, has 5 brothers. And he has 4 wives. Let's say he has 4 brothers and 4 wives. One of the brothers is going to do Yibum with one of the wives. When that happens, the other 3 wives become usher on all 3 of the other brothers. So
they were usher. They were usher before he died.
Before he died, they were also tzaddik chiv kars of Eshes Ach. Now we're saying once, even though they all are candidates for Yibum, but again, once one of the brothers does Yibum, then the other wives become usher on all the brothers, including the one who did Yibum and the one who did not do Yibum. If one of the brothers, if he, the one who did Yibum with Rachel, let's say, or one of the other brothers of Yaakov, has relations with on the other wives. He's an over basay. The over nasay. She never says Yavam Yavaleha. The Yavam should have relations with her. Not with her and the tzara. The lava makal a lav which is inferred by nasay is considered nasay. Therefore, if they have relations, there's not malchus. It's over on nasay. So halacha test. We talked about the fact that there's a mitzvah. He's supposed to marry one, not to marry the other. So there's no right. And now we're saying that besides that, there's an isser to have relations with any of the other wives. So that Voy was telling us there's no chiyuv. Now he's telling us actually even on naseh. Okay. If someone does chalitza, if one of Yaakov does chalitza with Rachel, let's say, so Rachel and the other wives become usher on the person who did chalitza and all the other brothers as well. They're usher like shnius. If he does yibum, it's isser midar not of an asay. If he does chalitza, it's isser midar like shnius. Why? Once again, this is the answer to the question of if it's not a mitzvah of Yibum, there's an issue of Eshes Ach. The Ram says no. Once the brother passes away with no descendants, the stalak issue the issue of Eshes Ach that applied to his brothers is removed. Therefore, if he's Makadish with Kedusha Kesef, she's Mekudeshes. But you're not allowed to do that. But the issue of Eshes Ach falls away. If there's issue of Eshes Ach, it's Chiv Karas. Giving Kedusha to your sister, to your mother, doesn't make them Mekudeshes. It's a joke. So same thing applies to your brother's wife. She's not Mekudeshes b'chal. But let's say he passed away with kids and she's now Mona. And the brother gives her Kedusha. She's not Mekudeshes because it's a Chiv Karas. But over here, because he passed away without kids, and there's a possibility of Yibum, technically speaking, with any one of these brothers with one of these wives, the Isser Karas of Eshes Ach falls away. So therefore, if he's Mekadesh them, if one of the brothers gives him Kedushin, she's Mekudeshes.
After he did
After
he did Yibum or Chalitza.
After the Chalitza. Oh, Yibum as well. After Yibum as well. Right. Yeah. But the point is that there's no Isser of Eshes Ach. What there is if one of the brothers to be Yabim, you have Isser Asay, but it's not a Chiv Karas. And
the brothers are
if one of the brothers did Yibum
with one of the
wives.
With one of the wives.
Yeah. So now there's no issue of Eshes Ach anymore. What there is an asay. It's issue of an asay of Yavam Yavaleha on any of the brothers to marry. On any of the brothers is issue asay to marry them. It's also
marry the sisters.
Right. To marry the sisters. And therefore, Kedushin is Teifus. If there's Chalitza, there's not even an issue asay. There's issue Medaron. Someone does chalitza with his yavam. Okay, so just like she's also on him after chalitza, so too her relatives are also on him. Going, for example, imobita, her mother or her daughter. She's also on his kids, and his brothers. Even the shnius, all the things that we said, going bas bita, her daughter's daughter, which is normally the case when the person marries a woman and divorces her. These are the people who are also on the person, right? We're going to say issues when a person gives a woman kedushin. Immediately, there are a bunch of people we said who will come also forever on the person. You kalish isha, even if you get divorced the next day, her daughter is also on you, her mother, all these things we said. Her granddaughter, she's also on his grandkids. Here's the principle. Once a person does chalitza, she has the status of a wife who you married and then divorced, and all the people who will be also on such a woman are also on the person now. This is interesting. What happens if?
What if Reuben married Yaakov married Rachel, and Esau and
Esau? That's what I was thinking. The fixing brother, yeah.
Esau married Rachel, and Esau died. So
I'm sorry. What happened? Yaakov has.
Yaakov married Rachel, and he had a brother by the name of Shimon. Okay, so this brother Shimon has to do Yibum to Rachel. Now, he has another brother, Levi. Is Levi allowed to, as we spoke before, marry Leah, which is a tzara, after he does Yibum?
Yaakov, Reuven, and Shimon are all. Yaakov,
Reuven, and Shimon are all brothers. Yaakov, Reuven, and Shimon are all brothers. Yaakov died, and Reuven has to be Miyabim Rachel. Yaakov was married to Rachel.
Okay.
His brother Reuven
married.
Has to be Miyabim Rachel.
He does Yibum.
And he does Yibum.
Yeah.
Is Shimon allowed to marry Leah?
No, that's the issue. That's the Isra say. Oh, Yavam Yavaleha.
The what?
Yeah, Isra say if Dafka the Yavam can have relations with her, but not with anyone else, and Dafka the Yavam and no one else can have relations with anyone else either. That's the exact halacha you did. Yeah, that's Isra Deraisa as in I say. That was halacha your days.
Right. But so when is it the Rabban?
With the Rabban, if Reuven, your example, who does Yibum?
Reuven does Yibum. So instead of Yibum, he did Chalitza.
Right. That's when it's the Rabban.
And I think that Roshan, you started saying now that's just like Roshan. So
when Reuven does Chalitza to Leah, we treat Leah as his wife who was divorced from him. You can't marry your divorcee's mother. You can't marry your divorcee's daughter.
Just like by the
Gershon. Right, exactly.
And so what I was getting to is by Gershon, can one of the brothers marry another wife of the guy that did Gershon?
Oh, about the case of Gershon. No, that's Isha. It's also Isha of Isha's Ach. Your brother's wife.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, but he died. Oh, the 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's this is interesting. What happens if the Yavama dies? So the brother dies. Now the brother is trying to think about should he do, and his wife is Almana now. Should he Yibum Vchalitza? He's thinking back and forth, and he gets news she passed away from the from right after her husband. Also, he's also on her relatives as if she's his widow because there was a shaykhus over there. These are all midrabanan. First, is allowed to marry the sister of his chalutza's co-wife. In other words, if Reuven has two wives, Rachel and
Leah, and he was married to both of them. But Leah has a sister that wasn't married to Yaakov.
Right.
So Yaakov's brother Reuven is allowed to marry that sister.
Yeah, Shakar and her other relatives as well. Yeah.
Why?
Her other relatives.
That's what I was getting to.
Because she's not. She has no shaykhus over here. She's a single girl.
But why should we say it's a ches tzoros? It's a ches ishti.
No, because again, what happened over here was Yaakov had.
You're allowed to marry.
Yeah, right, exactly.
At any given time, you're allowed to marry a ches ishti.
There's
no Umuter Adam Lisa Aches Tsaras Chalutzase Ushar Krevisel.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is
Right.
across
So,
the board.
in other words, the person's brother passes away. Now he does chalitza, and he has two wives. Okay,
Yeah.
so he does chalitza with one of the wives.
Right.
The other wife is now also on him
Okay.
But that wife, but that other wife, she has a sister.
No problem.
There's no problem. Exactly. What's the chiddush?
What's the chiddush? Yeah.
So, one second. So, you here from the chiddush.
There is a chiddush because that other wife that he did not do chalitza to, at some point was a zikah to him.
Who's what?
She was a zikah. She was like
right. Even though
technically because he could have grabbed her and done the chalitza.
Well, that's when she dies. But over here we're talking about the chalitza. The point is the same. Yeah, and even though she's usher, but her relatives are mutter. Yeah. Right. Okay. You doubt. Also, the Oven Lisa Kareva. A person is not allowed to marry the relatives of someone who is supposedly Mechalitza. So the brother passes away, and he's thinking Yibum Vchalitza. He's not sure. Meanwhile, he goes while he's deciding. He marries her mother, his brother's shviger, or her daughter, his brother's daughter-in-law, his brother's yeah, her daughter from a different
husband.
Yeah, or even his own niece. It's his niece. No, that would be possible because he has kids. Yeah,
a daughter from a different husband.
Right, exactly. Right, thank you. Her mother or her daughter. Until one of the brothers does yibum to the almana, or yachlitzla, or does chalitza, and the zikah is removed. Then after he can marry her mother or daughter, or other relatives. Even though the mother or the daughter of the woman who gets chalitza is also on the man who performs the chalitza, but on the brother it's not usher. So yeah, so he has to wait to one of the brothers does Yibum Vchalitza because while there's a shaykhis, it's not appropriate. The Chacham answered it because there's even though he might not be the one to be Yibum Vchalitza, but while he has like a quasi marriage, but because of the fact that the open window makes him shaykh to Yibum Vchalitza. So a person who you essentially have enough of a connection marriage-wise, there's no condition required. All you do is the sunnah to marry the person's mother or daughter or anybody else who's awesome to marry. If you actually marry that woman, is not allowed. The Chamas Tezvav. If someone does Yibum, fine. V'gerisha, you're later, it's not working out to get divorced. He wants to remarry her. Yachsir. Again, you don't say that. It's just they did Yibum. Now the remarriage is just a marriage. What's the heck to marry your brother's wife? So no, but once the patient she's a regular wife, but Nisha aleh shum iser pei achiv klal. There's no issue that remains based on just because of the fact that there's no issue that remains simply because simply because of trying the fact that she married his brother. Let me tell you safe. Not so when there's Yibum Vchalitza or when there's Chalitza, for example, so then you have this midrabanan. When there's Yibum, there's matter on other brothers. But when the brother's Yibum and then there's Chalitza, so on that brother, not the other brothers. The other brothers are the same. Nothing changes. That brother to remarry the one who he was married to, that's allowed. That's not a problem. That's not. Okay, a 9-year-old child, that's the age when his bia is considered relevant. That is therefore, Yavim, if a Yavim who's a child was 9 years old, has a relationship with the Yavim, with the Almana, if he's already 9 years old, then with our Banan, they should stay together. Because with our Banan, could not tell you actually. No, I think with our Banan, I'll tell you why I think in a second. So they should stay together. But Chalitza should not be done. So if he does Yibum B'diavad, so 9 years old, then it works with Rabbanon, and then again when he does Yibum again as an adult, that's when she's married to Mater.
We learn a lot of this about Ma'aseh Yehud and Tamar, right? So Erev died, and Yehud was telling Tamar, wait until Shua grows up.
Oh, okay, that's it. You go. Okay, so we'll see over there. How that
plays
what gadol? Yeah, I think so. However, Chalitza, To take her, let her marry the whole world, he has to be an adult, and it has to be clear. It has to be verified that he is physically mature. It says ish by the parasha of Vchalitza. So that's all delusion. I mean, the real parasha of Vchalitza Yibum is in Devarim. So
right.
So that's where it says ish. If he was less than 13 years old, less than 9, and has to be as B is nothing. This is why I said before that you kind of see the Rabbanon, because the relations of a 9-year-old child doesn't require her mamish 100% Torah. Therefore, in Yivim Teres Lazar, the Yavam is not mutter to marry whoever she pleases. Unless she has relations with her after he's an adult. After Chalitza. So, for example, if he has relations with her when he's 9, then the kid dies when he's 10. She's still not mutter to the whole world. She needs a proper Chalitza. Yud Zayin. Yivam was a minor. Let's say she's a child. Let the father's father. Let's make it simple. The father's mekadosh her as a child. So her kedusha is 100% kedusha in Torah. If Yab wants to Yibum, Yab Mesa. If the Yalfa wants to have relations, wants to do Yibum, the Yab he could do it, and it works in Torah. But Ein and the Chalitza cannot be done until she's an adult.
I'm sorry. Then to sein. Wie meine Praxise Endias Revere, Ubias Bentesha, in a kind of Indian comer. So what is this 9-year-old doing in this process that he's having a relationship with her?
So it's
exactly what's going on.
It's basically Yibum Midrabban. The Chamim put it once he does this the Yibum, then she can't marry anybody else. Because now there was Yibum done because his bia, a 9-year-old child bia, is considered a bia. So that makes her now acquired to him the Rabbanon. But it's only the Rabbanon, therefore she is still in.
And when they live together after he becomes a gadol, then she is.
So the fichel therefore, and you visit the teres lazar. Let's say, for example, passes away.
Let's say
child passes away. Let's say at the age of 9, at the age of 11.
This cut and died.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unless he had a relation with her after 13,
I was listening.
When he died.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So if he becomes a gadol, and then he gives her a get, let's say, or does chalitza, then
she's fine. Yeah. She can go.
Yeah. If Ashtachlis, right? Even though he had relations with her already after 9 years old, right. But if he never has relations with her after becoming bar mitzvah, right. He can do chalitza or a get. He can do chalitza, obviously, and if he does have relations with her, he can give her a get. Right. Good. Good design. The Chen Yivam Katana Yivam who's a minor. Wants to Yam, he can do Yibum. Yeah, sorry. If the Yavam wants to Yibum with her, he can do Yibum. Even though she's a child, but the Yibum works even just like the kedushin the father was mekabel for is legitimate. So too is the Yibum. But chalitza will only be done once we can confirm that she is physically mature. Even if there's bia after she's 12 years old, in which case you'd say, over here, the words are shtickle. Got this thing over here. So again, so okay, even there was bia after 12 years old by the first husband. That's what I'm saying over here. By the first husband, the mele when it by a katana, in other words, like a case where she was married off by not her father, which makes her a Krishna Torah. She was married off by her older brother because her father passed away, by her older brother, by her mother. And the fact that it was bia after she turned 12, we said that makes if she turned 12 and she's not physically mature, that's when the kedushin is a kedushin gemurin. Yeah. So over here, she's 12. We didn't inspect her, so she can't do chalitza. Actually, until we do bedika and we know for sure she's physically mature. That's when we say that
you give
her chalitza. If that didn't happen, though, then we have to be worried that maybe she's not physically mature, and therefore, I was going to say the kedushin for the first husband was never solidified, and therefore the chalitza is not necessarily good. But the truth is, if the follows mekadosh for her, then that would make a difference because she's mekudeshes. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on over here completely. This is a particular complicated halacha. Okay. So I have to revisit this one and at a later date with more time for bima ayin. Yud ches. Kishem she'eina Yibum Vchalitza is just like the person can't do chalitza until he's an adult. Kach eina Yibum Vchalitza also the Yibum can't have chalitza until she's an adult. What if they're both under bar mitzvah? Let them grow up together, and then when the first time they have relations, when they're both past bar mitzvah, that will make the kinyan gomer. Yites. Yavama should not do Yibum Vchalitza. She should not do Mechalitza. She tam tishmiyim until she waits 90 days. Chutz miyim hamisa v'yim Yibum, except for the day of the passing of the husband and the day of the Yibum itself. Or the Mechalitza, as all women know. We said before the previous prakim, in the end of the Gerushin, that we want to wait 90 days to be certain if who the child is from. And over here is super important because if there's a child, because do Yibum, and then it turns out she's actually embarrassed the first husband. There's no issue, and she has a kid. There's no chiyuv of Yibum. In fact, there's an issue of Eishas Ach. Chiyuv Kares. Why can't you do chalitza? Maybe you understand why. What's the problem? Do chalitza. Wait, see what happens. Maybe she be patient. Ain't really Yibum. Since at that time the Chachamim said she's not fit for Yibum for sure, because maybe she's expecting from the first husband. But then it says, if he does not want to do Yibum, then he does chalitza. The Eishim Yibum at a time when she's a candidate for Yibum, that's when she's a candidate for chalitza. The Cholzman she's Yibum, as long at a time period she's not a Yibum candidate. She's not a chalitza candidate either.
And why is she not a candidate for Yibum? Because she may be pregnant.
Right, because it's within 90 days. What if the person does Yibum Vchalitza within 30 days, in 90 days? Since we can determine eventually after 3 months we'll realize she's not pregnant. She's potter and there's not necessary. Because retroactively it's like it was good. Very risky thing to do in terms of the Yibum, because if she's not expecting, then in terms of retroactively it was a chiyuv kares. It's a very risky thing to do because if he does Yibum a week after the brother passes away, 2 weeks after the brother passes away, and then let's say we know, and then they're not together for sure. We know that they're not separate continents. And then she
finds herself pregnant.
Right. So we don't know from who.
Right.
So if it's from the first brother, then this is Eishas Ach, because she's not a candidate for, especially if the child is born and survives. Right. Someone does chalitza. Name says then she turns out
that this child when you marry Eishas Ach, is the kid a mamzer?
Yeah, chiyuv kares. Yeah, we'll see about that soon. A person does chalitza. Name says and then she's pregnant. She gives birth. Obviously, the child is from the first husband. The child survived. In that case, we consider the chalitza to be void or irrelevant. She can marry a kohen. Again, a regular chalitza is usher on a kohen d'avonon because she looks like a grusha. But this chalitza was a joke. There's nothing. Would there a son? They can marry each other's relatives. He does chalitza during, marry her mother, marry her daughter. In a pilaf, she miscarries. Or the child was born, but this didn't survive 30 days after it was pregnant. And the Pasha, I'm talking about a case that talking about a case where we don't know that for certain it was a full-term pregnancy. If we know for certain it wasn't a full-term pregnancy, then we don't care if the child was 30 days or not. I'm sorry. If we know for sure it was a full-term pregnancy, then the child's birth is not considered a real birth. But over here, we're talking about a case where the child was a miscarriage, or the child did not survive 30 days. Then then it has to be chalitza again. Chalitza is more better. It's in the chalitza. Because the chalitza of a pregnant woman is not considered chalitza. And Yibum, the B is not Yibum. So this is very interesting. Over here, in the second case, it's with the Rabbanon. Because in the Rabbanon, the child who doesn't survive long enough is not considered a real child. It looks like an almona, a childless almona rather. He had no kids. It resembles that because the child passed away so soon, within 30 days after not a full-term pregnancy. But in a case where she miscarried, the child never survived for a moment. Still, we say that because the chalitza was done while she was pregnant, even though in the end it turns out that she is a mechuyev ma'atayra Yibum Vchalitza, but shasi was done when she was pregnant. The Yibum is not leaving the chalitza, not chalitza. It could be that the chalitza over here, the chiv is only the darabon. Ma'atayra, she's a chalitza. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Therefore, if someone does Yibum or Chalitza to his Yivama who's pregnant, and the other wives should not get married. The other almanis, if this guy had a few wives, they should not get married until we find out what happened with this pregnant woman, with this kid. Why should have old matir? Because the fact that because her Yibum or Chalitza doesn't do anything, because we have to find what the story is. And to say that she's pregnant, therefore there's no Yibum Vchalitza, let's be married if we want. That can only be determined after the child is born and lives, a reasonable amount of time. Either one moment if it's a full-term pregnancy, or 30 days if it's not a full-term pregnancy. And the fact that that's as far as the child being mated them with no Yibum Vchalitza. And as far as letting them marry whoever they want, because one of the wives got Yibum Vchalitza, again, that Yibum Vchalitza doesn't do anything if there's no chiyuv for it. So therefore, Chav Beis. Someone does Yibum with his wife. The name is more better. Turns out she is pregnant. Mafrishna is we separate them. Until you wait. Now again, we don't know who this child is from, right? Because she did Yibum. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. He did. Let's say he did Yibum 3 months after the wedding. 3 months after he passed away. Yeah. 2 weeks later, she's visibly showing. It's obviously the child from the first one. And we wait. If she miscarries, he can be Mekayim her. I don't think it means he has to do Yibum again per se. But the Yibum he did apparently is retroactively valid because it's a galam afraid that she's declared not she's a bas Yibum basically, that she is a candidate. I think that's what it means. It doesn't say Yachshav Yabim, even though it's going to happen. Yachshav Yikayim, that retroactive Yibum takes effect. If he dies, if she gives birth, even on that day he passes away. So again, when and therefore, or in a case where we know it's a full-term baby, like he has the hair and the nails, he's supposed to have. He's a moitzi beget. He has to give her a get. Why? We'll see in a minute. He has to give her a get. And only afterwards can she went to other people. Why a get and chalitza? So because she gave birth, she's not really mechuyev Yibum Vchalitza. Therefore, the Yibum the guy did is nothing. She has to get chalitza. The get is midrabanan. The get is midrabanan because it looks like they were married. So Matera she requires chalitza because ultimately she didn't. Right, sorry, forget she had a child. No, so Matera she needs a get then. No, 1 second. She had a child, and this child lived, and it survived, and it died that same day. Let's say, even if it died that same day. But the point is that she has a child. She has a child. Period. So in that case, Yibum Vchalitza is nothing because there's no Yibum Vchalitza. This is the deceased person's, the dead person's kid. So therefore,
there's no din of Yibum.
There's no din of Yibum, right? So therefore, so Simon. So how does it make to begin Chalitza? You're both in the Rabbanon. Yeah, thank you.
The reason why the Rabbanon is saying is because ultimately Lepel, this husband doesn't have a child. I mean, he was born, but he doesn't have a child.
Right. Thank you. Right. So in other words, no, but that's because
when they had this relationship, he had the relationship while she was Melberes.
Good, but it says afilu meis b'yem shnil. Let's say the child didn't die; he lived there. So the chiyuv of get and chalitza are both midrabanan. She needs a chalitza midrabanan. I'm sorry. Right, the chalitza is in the event that he passed away. If the child didn't pass away, all you need is a get midrabanan because it looks like they were married. Yeah. If the child did pass away within 30 days. So then you need a chalitza midrabanan as well, because again, it looks like he's childless because the child passed away so soon. Yeah, okay. That's what you're saying. Thank you. If the child lived for 30 days after, it says over here. If a child survived 30 days, the child is a viable child. There's no get necessary. She's an erva. So therefore, but in erva, you can't say it looks like they're married. When the child passed away, so it looks like they're not erva because it looks like it's yibum. So therefore, there's no get. But over here, where be'etzem, you'll say it looks like they were married, but you can't say it looks like they were married. The kedusha is not tefus. Chav gimel. What if she does yibum? 6 months later, she has a kid. A living child. Who is he? Is he the first husband in a 9-month pregnancy, or a second husband, a 7th-month pregnancy? Those are both viable pregnancies in the Gemara, right? The 8th month is like is too early, but 7th month is like healthy, but it's expedited. We don't know whose child he is, but either way, he's a kosher child. Therefore, he has to give a get to her in case it's his child and she's married to him at Torah. He has to give her a get to. But the child is kosher. So if it's the first husband's child,
the child is kosher regardless.
If it's the first husband's child, though, they're now be married together. There's no get necessary. But because we don't know though, it might be his child, so he has to give her a get before she can marry whoever she wants. But what if after she had the child, they had relations again? Now the child is suffik mamzer. Because if this child is the first brother, there's no Yibum Vchalitza necessary. This is Eshach. It's a karas. And this child is a suffix if it's a legitimate child or not legitimate child. If the first child, if the first child was the second husband, the first husband is exactly.
He's in a relationship that is not allowed.
Car status. Okay. It might be now that happens. For the suffix,
right. Go ahead.
Okay.
It's nice when there is a big crowd, so I take advantage. And he was very kind to me that he let me ask my shilas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm running.
Oh wow,
it's Mati's share.
Long time today.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's okay. It's good. So it's good.
Right. This thing we're working today. You made ayin hard. She said, "Yes, man. If I'm going to computers, it's not b'chlal. I don't know what's wrong with it.
What?
Yeah. Yes. If I'm going to kapara." And she done with kaparas. What's this kapara? What's the shine? Yeah, sure. Okay.
It's very Thursday tomorrow. Wow.
Today's Chabad or they